In this screencast, I'm going to get my background moving or scrolling in a continuous fashion so that it appears as if it just scrolls on indefinitely. So in Flappy Bird, the what scrolls is this the lower image on the screen, the little skyline with the green. And before I actually set that in motion, I'm going to set up the GameState variable. So the GameState variable will be similar in function to how it was in our button bashing game, in that it'll control which lines of code will execute depending on what phase the game is in. So in my world, I'm going to make I'm sorry, it's already created, a string variable called GameState. So if you don't have that, you should definitely create that. All right, so now I'm going to go down, and GameState is a private variable, meaning it's only accessible from within the MyWorld class. So if I want to access it from another class, which I may, I'm going to write what's called a getter method. So a getter method actually returns or supplies the value of a variable to another class. So I'm going to write public string get game state, and this is underneath the act method in my world. It's going to be a single line of code inside the body of the method that says return game state. So now whenever I want to access the game state variable, I just can call the get game state method. All right, and that's important because I only want the background to scroll when the game is either in running or startup mode. So right now, as it stands, from the previous screencast, I should have an image that is scaled to be the length or the width of the screen. All right, so now I'm going to set the world in motion. So I'm actually going to do this. I'm going to make a new subclass of actor, and I'm going to call that background. All right, and this background actor is just going to scroll across the screen continuously. So now I'm going to go into background, and I need to set the background image of the background actor, or I need to set the image itself. So once again, I'm going to have to scale my extra long background image. So I'm going to do something like this for my background actor. So I'm going to go into background, the background, and I'm going to make a constructor method for background. So the constructor method is run when a new background object is created, and it will have the same. It always has the same name as the class itself, and will say public. So I'm going to copy and paste in my code from the other class. All right, so that makes my background have the width of the screen. However, I need to add this line of code. And all this does is give me access to the world that this actor object lives in. So now, instead of saying just get width, I say world.getWidth, and instead of saying height, I say world.getHeight. Okay, so now in the act method, I'm going to make an act method. Oh, it already is there. And I'm going to say if game state is not equal to finished, because when it's in the finished mode, Actually, you know what? Let's call it, for now, we'll call it stopped. Now, as soon as we'll say finished. I'm sorry. I forgot when the Flappy Bird dies, the game's over immediately. He doesn't have a second life. So I'm just going to say finished. Okay, and now it's kind of a geometry problem. So my image is the width of this screen. So as soon as it goes completely off the screen, its x coordinate, which is the center of the image, is going to be half its width off the screen. So when it's half of its width is off the screen, its x coordinate is going to be negative getImage.getWidth divided by 2. And what do I need to do? I need to immediately relocate it so its center is about half off the screen on the right. So in order for its coordinate to be half off the screen in the right, it's going to be 1.5 times the width of this screen. Or I can simply move it, add 2 times its own width, and maybe subtract out a pixel or two so I don't get a blank space by chance when they overlap. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to say set location, okay, and I'm going to say getX plus 2 times getImage.getWidth. And then I'm going to subtract out maybe 4 pixels just for, we'll try 3 pixels for good measure. So that basically, and then I'm going to say get Y. That basically moves the image 2 whole widths to the right. And when it does that, instead of being half off the left side of the screen, it's going to be half off the right side of the screen. Okay, and I only want to do that when it's half off the left edge of the screen. So I say if getX is less than negative 0.5 times world.getWidth, then set location getX set location half off the right edge of the screen, minus 3 pixels for good measure. All right, so that is what checks to see if it's gone off the left edge of the screen. So aside from checking, I need to actually move it every time the act method executes. So I'm going to say set location, and then I'm going to say getX minus, and we'll try minus 3 to see what, or minus 2, just to see what that looks like. And then I'm going to say get Y. So now when the act method executes, if the game is not finished, meaning it's either in startup mode or it's actually running, then it's just going to constantly be moving any background actor or any background object to the left. Okay, so now I have the behavior of background, and let's see, why am I still getting an error? Oh, I forgot the semicolon. Probably some of you noticed that before. All right, and now why am I getting an error? Oh, I need to do the same thing. I need to put this line of code in the beginning of the act method so that I can access GameState in my world. And as a matter of fact, I need to say world.GameState, not just and not GameState. Wow, how short my memory is. It's getGameState. Okay, so now I have no errors. And now I'm going to go back to my world. All right, and I'm going to get rid of, well, you know what? No, let me just leave it the way it is. And in the constructor, I'm going to create 2 background objects now. So I'm going to say background first equals new background, and background second equals new background. And I missed the R. And you know what? Let me declare them as instance variables. So up here, I'm going to say background, background 1, and background 2. So you're going to need two images for a seamless scrolling background. As I said, think in the previous uh, screencast. And if you're not having one where they just match up when you have two back to back, as I think I said in the previous screencast, you may need to do the mirror image of one of them. So if you're not doing Flappy Bird, let's see, you're going to, oh, you know what? I'm sorry, it's not this background. The image of that scrolls is not the skyline in Flappy Bird. It's the kind of brown bars down at the bottom that scrolls. So what then I want to do is look and see what that image is and make that the image of my background. So if I go over to the folder that my game is in, and I think it's on my Z drive under Greenfoot, and it's Floppy Bird screencast, and then images, and I think it's called ground. So let's see what ground looks like. Yes, it is called ground. Okay, so I'm going to stretch that out. I'm going to scale it to be the width of the screen, and it's called ground.png. So I'm going to go back to go back to the background class, and I'm going to set the image to be ground.png. Okay, so ground.png needs to appear on the very bottom of the screen in Flappy Bird. So if I look at what its width is, I think I need to scale it. So let me open it again and let me look. Okay, so I don't want to scale it to be the height of the screen. I need to scale it to be, well, let's see, what dimensions approximately would it be? And I can tweak this at a later time. So I want it to be about 150 pixels tall. So I'm going to go and scale it, if I can bring Greenfoot back up, to be 150 pixels tall. And that's in the constructor of background. Okay, so now it's scaled to be the width of the screen and 150 pixels tall, meaning that in my world, I'm going to want to position it 150 pixels up from the bottom of the screen when I do their initial positioning. So this is going to be, instead of background first, it's going to be background 1, and the other one is going to be background 2. And then this is in the constructor of my world. Okay, so I'm going to now do, I have to add them to the world. It's going to be background 1, and its position is going to be the width of the screen minus 2. That's his left-right divided by 2, not minus 2. That's his left-right position, and it's going to be the height of the screen minus 150, which is, so it'll be 150 pixels up from the bottom. Okay, and now I also need to add a background 2, and I'm going to add it in, let's see, background 1 plus, no, okay, plus background 1 dot get image dot get width. So this is going to position it from here, which is where background 1 is, plus another width of the background 1 image, which is going to end up placing it back to back right off the screen. All right, so let me try running it, and if I, oh yeah, and you know what? I need to set the game state variable. So I'm going to say game state equals, and I need to set it game state equals, you know what? Let's do it before I even add the backgrounds. Or game state equals running or startup. All right, and now let's see what my error still is. Background int. Oh, I forgot to put get height minus 150. All right, so let's see if that will run. And I'm already getting a terminal error. Let's see. G.scale world.get width minus. Okay, so I think I found out what the problem is. When I create a background object, the constructor of background runs, and that means that this code executes. Well, I haven't added the background object to the world yet, so when I try to reference the width of the world it lives in, it actually doesn't live in a world yet. So I'm getting a null pointer exception. So what I'm going to have to do then is scale the image and set it in the my world constructor where I can access the width of the world. So I'm going to go into the my world constructor over here, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to say ground, and I already declared G, so I don't have to declare it again. And then I'm going to say that, and then I'm going to say background 1.set image G, and background 2.set image G. All right, and this is ground.png. Okay, so now let me see. Why I'm getting it as the background. Oh, so this should be extra long background .jpg. And let me see what that file was called again. Oh, it's camel case. So it's extra long background .jpg. Okay, so that sort of looks good, but my background is not, for the ground, is not really where it should be. So let me see if I can figure that one out. Okay, I think I figured it out. So the center of my background object is considered its Y location. So that means I really only want to position its center down here. So its center is only half its height up from the bottom, which in this case is 75 pixels. So I'm going to go, and if I change that to 75 and I do the same thing for the other one, I think I should be good. So let's see. Yes, there we go. And now when I click run, it does seem to be scrolling correctly. Maybe I can make it go a little faster, but pretty much for the most part that looks pretty good. I want to keep waiting, looking at it, and keep it running for a while to make sure that when one of them goes completely off the screen, it goes again over to the right, and I see it. I don't see any white line to indicate that to the user that I'm just recycling the same actor object. Okay, it seems to be working. I know I kind of stumbled around in this screencast. Hopefully you will still be able to use it. All right, cheers.